Relationship with a guy. We had dated for about 5 years. Was a doctor, lives in the UK, interestingly. I think he's moved now, I don't know, but he lived in the UK at the time. We met when we were on campus, OAU, and then I graduated. We both graduated. We had done introduction. You know, families had got to know each other. We're now planning to get married. But he came to the UK to do his masters. I stayed back home to do my masters. When he was leaving, I even sent some of my stuff. You know, it was a done deal. Okay. And when I turned 16, I was diagnosed with PCOS and unexplained uterine bleeds. And doctors had told me that it would be near impossible. In fact, they told me it would not be possible to have a child. But my mind kind of just said near impossible. So I had planned my life that I would marry a doctor. And I had met a doctor who was in love with me. And the doctor was in the UK, so better health care. So I planned that we'd just do IVF and move on with our lives. I had a plan, a solid plan. And then when he left, one day I was going to school. I was about to go to school. We had tutorials. And so that morning I just woke up, went to have my bath, and as I was about to get into the shower, I had this very unusual presence of God, very strong. You know when you know that God is in the room. I don't know if anybody's ever, you know what I mean? Yes, you just know. And I've walked with God. I got born again as a teenager, so I've walked with God for a long time. So I know how he deals with me, and I know how he speaks to me. He speaks to me very clearly through the word. And so he just said to me, I want to speak to you. And so I left everything instantly, left soap, everything, and I went into my room. And I got on my knees, and I began to worship. And as I was worshiping, for those of you that come from Nigeria or have lived in Nigeria, you know that we don't have lights in Nigeria, right? So of course there was no light. But I had this old CD player that whenever the light comes on, wherever it stopped is where it will continue to play from. And so I got on my knees and I was worshiping. And while I was worshiping, the light came back on. And so the track that was playing in my CD was a Johnny McClurkin song, Yes, I Will Trust You, Lord. And at the beginning of that song, he begins to say, what if I ask you to let go of the very thing that you hold so dear? And Donnie says, yes, I will trust you, Lord. And he's singing, and I'm singing along. Anyway, singing with all of my heart, yes, I will trust you, Lord. I was just going on and really feeling very holy and righteous with myself and saying, oh, the Lord wants to speak to me. And then he just drops in my heart, John 4. And then I go to John 4, and I'm reading about the woman at the well, when Jesus is saying to her, give me water, and she says, you, a Jew, asking a Samaritan for water. And Jesus said, if you knew who was asking you for water, you would ask me for water, because the water I gave you will never thirst again. And the lady says, the water you give me, I'll never thirst again. He says, please give me this water. And then he says to her, go and call your husband. And she says, I don't have a husband. And Jesus said, you rightly said, for the man you're with is not your husband. And it looked like someone used a highlighter pen to mark that line, that the man you're with is not your husband. Pastor Emmy. Gang. I was like, Holy Spirit, rough play, I beg. What? The man I'm with is not a what? What? Can't have this conversation. I got up, carried my bag, went to school. We are not having this conversation. First of all, I'm Igbo. The guy was Yoruba, and I had fought a battle and won. So you do understand that? My parents had bought into this whole thing. We had done introduction. What are you talking about? How can the man I'm with not, sir? What's that? And so I started having these arguments with the Holy Spirit. Like, you can't do this to me. We can't have this conversation. And they didn't really swear for me. Then they want me going to London. Pound sterling really looks good on me. It's not like Nigeria. They didn't look at my skin. It will be good in abroad. Do you understand? The weather, the cold, I will be yellow. I'm just having all kinds of conversations with the Holy Spirit. And then I said to him, well, if this is what you want, you're going to have to do it yourself, because he didn't offend me. He's born again. He loves you. He's talking. He's everything I want. So why romantic? Everything. The guy used to write poems, make mixtapes. Yes, now you know my age. I used to do all kinds, all the right stuff, open doors. Guys in Nigeria don't do that. So what am I looking for again, Jesus? And then he said to me, don't worry. So we're having a conversation. The guy called me on the phone and then he said to me, so he was saying something and I didn't answer him well. So he said, why are you not talking? What's wrong? I feel like I'm losing you. I didn't say anything, because I had a lot on my mind. He said, you know what? Let's just end this. Out of the blues, no fight, no nothing. And my phone dropped out of my hand. And then I went to bed, cried all night. The next morning he called me and said, he doesn't know what came over him. How can he say he wants to end it with me? But I held on to that. He was crying, I was crying. And I kept saying to him, no. He said, I love you. I said, I love you, but no. You've ended it, let's end it here. It's over, it's over. But all the while he was still begging. A lot was going on. And so I told God, this isn't right, this isn't fair. This boy is your son too now. Like, you really want him heartbroken and all of that. And then the Lord said something to me. He said, ask him, if you were a pastor, would he marry you? I said, that's easy. Very easy. Someone that's begging you, that wants to marry you. That's easy now. It's a no-brainer. And he's born again. No, it's a no-brainer. So I picked up the phone and I said to him, I want to ask you a question. And he said, oh, anything, baby. I said, if I were a pastor, would you marry me? He said, no. I said, wait. I want to help you wait. Maybe you don't understand the question. If this me that you love, that you want to be with, you want to have children, you see your baby is in my eyes, that me, the one you rep, everything. If I were a pastor, would you marry me? He said, I didn't stutter. No. Then I knew that there was a problem. See, the woman at the well, God was calling her to deeper things. But he knew that whoever her husband would be a lead over her life. So he was going to give her the water she wanted. But he needed to know, who is the man you're going to submit this water to? He needed to know that she had somebody above her that was submitted to him as well. He didn't even think about it. He said no. He didn't say, let me pray about it. He didn't say, well, he didn't even say, why? He just said no. No. So that means I probably would have been somewhere in London with you. Nobody would know my name. Probably won't be doing what God has called me to do today.